Hey guys, welcome back. I'm so sorry I did not upload yesterday. I have actually been trying to do this video since yesterday. This is my sixth attempt. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm super just kind of over these chapters. I've read them what feels like a million times already. And I finally figured out the problem and why the app I'm using to record these stopped working on me. So I'm confident that this recording will work and I can finally upload this because I've been trying since yesterday and I'm just so done. It's been a rough weekend and I feel like nothing has gone right, and I don't know if it's like, you know, God trying to teach me something, or if it's like, you know, um, the enemy, like Satan and his demons trying to like, just cause problems, or if it's both. I don't know. I just super frustrated, but it really actually like the more it kept not working, the more I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure this out and I'm gonna keep doing this. Like, I feel like that feeling got stronger and stronger and stronger. So, I mean, I guess something positive came out of it, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm not excited to listen to these chapters again for the it would be the seventh time because I listened to it when I record it, and then 6 times I tried to record it. So this would be my seventh time now doing these chapters. So, yay! I feel like I'm going to lose my mind this weekend. Okay, guys, let's get started because I'm just, yeah, let's get started.
What you may eat from all that is in the water. You may eat everything in the water that has fins and scales, whether in the seas or streams. But these are to be abhorrent to you. Everything in the seas or streams that does not have fins and scales among all the swarming things and other living creatures in the water. They are to remain abhorrent to you. You must not eat any of their meat, and you must abhor their carcasses. Everything in the water that does not have fins and scales will be abhorrent to you. You are to abhor these birds. They must not be eaten because they are abhorrent. Eagles, bearded vultures, Egyptian vultures, kites, any kind of falcon, every kind of raven, ostriches, short-eared owls, gulls, any kind of hawk, little owls, cormorants, long-eared owls, barn owls, eagle owls, ospreys, storks, any kind of heron, hoopoes, and bats. All winged insects that walk on all fours are to be abhorrent to you. But you may eat these kinds of all the winged insects that walk on all fours, those that have jointed legs above their feet for hopping on the ground. You may eat these. Any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, and grasshopper. All other winged insects that have 4 feet are to be abhorrent to you. These will make you unclean. Whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean until evening. And whoever carries any of their carcasses is to wash his clothes and will be unclean until evening. All animals that have hooves but do not have a divided hoof and do not chew the cud are unclean for you. Whoever touches them becomes unclean.
I keep thinking about how, I don't know if it was like day 33 or 32, I can't remember, it mentioned not to eat pig. That pig was unclean for you. And I keep thinking, I'm like, I wonder if people who are like more, down this path than I am, that are much more like devout believers, much further down their faith, because I just started believing and having faith and stuff and reading the Bible and praying and stuff. I wonder if you know, people actually follow what he's saying right here in the Bible. Like, do people not eat pig? Um, pork? Um, like, I'm genuinely curious. Like, because ever since I've been reading this, I'm just like, oh my God, like, I really don't eat pork really. I only eat like bacon sometimes, when it's on like a burger or something like that. And then occasionally, well, not occasionally, I love pizza. So I'll have pepperoni on it. Um, which pepperoni is pork, right? Right? I don't know, guys. I'm not stupid, I swear. I I have my entire life lived so far just in survival mode. So a lot of like bits of knowledge and just little things and big things even, um, just in everyday life that people like know about or have knowledge about, I'm not always well versed in it because I have spent my life just doing what I've had to survive. So if sometimes I say something that sounds stupid, or I ask a question or have an opinion or a thought on something that kind of sounds stupid, maybe ignorant, maybe naive, guys, I swear I'm not stupid. I'm not like some dumb blonde. I mean, I'm not blonde, obviously, but like, I'm not. I have had a very survival mode life. So anything, any information or seeking information or information that's given to me that's not helpful to me surviving my life just goes out my brain. So yes, I asked if pepperoni is pork because I genuinely just have never had the room in my life or in my head, in my brain to think about something like that. So, anyways, genuine question. Do, devout believers of God and his word, do they eat pork? I'm curious. Let me know.
All the four-footed animals that walk on their paws are unclean for you. Whoever touches their carcass.
And this one I think is um like rough because I had this teacher in high school, a math teacher. He would tell us about how where he was from, an Asian country. I don't remember which one, but they ate dogs. And he thought it was weird that we had them as pets here in America because they ate them. And we were all like, what? And yeah, that's a thing, guys. There's countries out there that eat weird things and like animals, and dogs is one of them. It's horrible. Like, horrible. Anyways, I mean, yeah.
Will be unclean until evening, and anyone who carries their carcasses is to wash his clothes and will be unclean until evening. They are unclean for you. These creatures that swarm on the ground are unclean for you: weasels, mice, any kind of large lizard, geckos, monitor lizards, common lizards, skinks, and chameleons. These are unclean for you among all the swarming creatures. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean until evening. When any one of them dies and falls on anything, it becomes unclean. Any item of wood, clothing, leather, sackcloth, or any implement used for work. It is to be rinsed with water and will remain unclean until evening. Then it will be clean.
My thought when I read this verse is, it makes me think of this was God's way of telling people back then, before they knew of like bacteria and diseases and viruses and stuff like that, um, that like, these things are infected with whatever bacteria, viruses, diseases. And so when he's saying, though they're unclean, to me, I'm taking that as they're infected, they're dirty. They, like, and they didn't have like antibacterial soap and cleaning products. So yeah, you could rinse them, but that doesn't mean you're killing the bacteria on it. And I mean, we all know now that like different items, bacteria can live under certain circumstances, they can live longer or shorter depending, on what they are and what they're on, what surface they're on. So, um, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting that, like, um, that this was like how this information was getting to them back then with the knowledge that they had, because we're have a lot more knowledge now. So, um, and if I'm wrong about what unclean means, let me know. But to me, that's what I'm imagining unclean means is it's infected with whatever bacteria, disease, or virus that came from you know, the unclean animals or carcasses. So,
If any of them falls into any clay pot, everything in it will become unclean. You are to break it. Any edible food coming into contact with that unclean water will become unclean, and any drinkable liquid in any container will become unclean. Anything one of their carcasses falls on will become unclean. If it is an oven or stove, it is to be smashed. It is unclean and will remain unclean for you. A spring or cistern containing water will remain clean, but someone who touches a carcass in it will become unclean. If one of their carcasses falls on any seed that is to be sown, it is clean. But if water has been put on the seed, and one of their carcasses falls on it, it is unclean for you. If one of the animals that you use for food dies, anyone who touches its carcass will be unclean until evening. Anyone who eats some of its carcass is to wash his clothes and will be unclean until evening. Anyone who carries its carcass must wash his clothes and will be unclean until evening. All the creatures that swarm on the earth are abhorrent. They must not be eaten. Do not eat any of the creatures that swarm on the earth, anything that moves on its belly or walks on all fours or on many feet, for they are abhorrent. Do not become contaminated by any creature that swarms. Do not become unclean or defiled by them. For I am the Lord your God, so you must consecrate yourselves and be holy because I am holy. Do not defile yourselves by any swarming creature that crawls on the ground. For I am the Lord, who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be your God, so you must be holy because I am holy.
I find that so like um I don't want to say interesting. I feel like that's the wrong word. But God's clearly telling us right here that he wants us to be holy like him. And I feel like if we really like open up to him and pray to him and ask him for guidance, like he'll guide us to how he wants us to live our lives and what he intended for our lives. And I know that from my recent, praying and talking to him and getting to know him and asking him for guidance on many things. Um, I definitely see that he's trying to guide me in a way that's like um, good and away from things that are not holy, that are bad, that are unclean. Like but it's not easy, you know. Um, it's definitely not an easy path to walk down. So,
This is the law concerning animals, birds, all living creatures that move in the water, and all creatures that swarm on the ground, in order to distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between the animals that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten.
and two, vegans, the vegans out there that are like, oh, you shouldn't eat meat, you shouldn't eat animals. Um, I wonder if there's any vegans that believe in God and the Bible and what their thoughts are, because God's clearly here telling us. He's telling us what's unclean and what's clean and what animals can be eaten and which ones should not be eaten. And I feel like it's clear as day. And if people are like really following the Bible, you would follow it because clearly God has, everything in the Bible has meaning. Everything. So, I don't know, I'm just curious.
The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, when a woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a male child, she will be unclean 7 days, as she is during the days of her menstrual impurity. The flesh of his foreskin must be circumcised on the 8th day. She will continue in purification from her bleeding for 33 days. She must not touch any holy thing or go into the sanctuary until completing her days of purification. But if she gives birth to a female child, she will be unclean for 2 weeks, as she is during her menstrual impurity. She will continue in purification from her bleeding for 66 days. When her days of purification are complete, whether for a son or daughter, she is to bring to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting a year-old male lamb for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering. He will present them before the Lord and make atonement on her behalf. She will be clean from her discharge of blood.
I don't understand what she's having to have the priest make atonement on her behalf for. What's she atoning for? Why is she having to do a sin offering? What sin did she commit? She gave birth. She had a baby. I literally have read this so many times. And every single time I'm like, am I missing something? Like, I don't understand. I don't get it. What is she atoning for? What sin did she commit? She had a baby. She literally had a child and gave birth. Like, isn't that God said to multiply and wants us to multiply and have children? So, like, I don't understand. I just don't get it. Like, I feel like I'm missing something.
This is the law for a woman giving birth, whether to a male or female. But if she doesn't have sufficient means for a sheep, she may take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. Then the priest will make atonement on her behalf, and she will be clean. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. When a person has a swelling, scab, or spot on the skin of his body, and it may be a serious disease on the skin of his body, he is to be brought to the priest Aaron or to one of his sons, the priests. The priest will examine the sore on the skin of his body. If the hair in the sore has turned white, and the sore appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, it is in fact a serious skin disease. After the priest examines him, he must pronounce him unclean. But if the spot on the skin of his body is white and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest will quarantine the stricken person for 7 days. The priest will then re-examine him on the 7th day. If he sees that the sore remains unchanged and has not spread on the skin, the priest will quarantine him for another 7 days. The priest will examine him again on the 7th day. If the sore has faded and has not spread on the skin, the priest is to pronounce him clean. It is a scab. The person is to wash his clothes and will become clean. For if
I did they have doctors back in this time? Like their version of doctors, or did they go to the priest for any ailments? Um like I don't understand like why, or were the priests, also um versed in like ailments and doctor stuff? I don't know.
the scab spreads further on his skin after he has presented himself to the priest for his cleansing, he is to present himself again to the priest. The priest will examine him, and if the scab has spread on the skin, then the priest must pronounce him unclean. He has a serious skin disease. When a case of serious skin disease may have developed on a person, He is to be brought to the priest. The priest will examine him. If there is a white swelling on the skin that has turned the hair white, and there is a patch of raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic serious disease on the skin of his body, and the priest must pronounce him unclean. He need not quarantine him, for he is unclean. But if the skin disease breaks out all over the skin, so that it covers all the skin of the stricken person from his head to his feet, so far as the priest can see, the priest will look, and if the skin disease has covered his entire body, he is to pronounce the stricken person clean. Since he has turned totally white, he is clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on him, he will be unclean. When the priest examines the raw flesh, he must pronounce him unclean. Raw flesh is unclean. This is a serious skin disease. But if the raw flesh changes and turns white, he is to go to the priest. The priest will examine him. If the sore has turned white, the priest must pronounce the stricken person clean. He is clean. When a boil appears on the skin of someone's body and it heals, and a white swelling or a reddish white spot develops where the boil was, the person is to present himself to the priest. The priest will make an examination, and if the spot seems to be beneath the skin and hair in it has turned white, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is a case of serious skin disease that has broken out in the boil. But when the priest examines it, if there is no white hair in it, and it is not beneath the skin but is faded, the priest will quarantine him 7 days. If it spreads further on the skin, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is, in fact, a disease. But if the spot remains where it is and does not spread, it is only the scar from the boil. The priest is to pronounce him clean. When there is a burn on the skin of one's body produced by fire, and the patch made raw by the burn becomes reddish white or white, the priest is to examine it. If the hair in the spot has turned white, and the spot appears to be deeper than the skin, it is a serious skin disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest must pronounce him unclean. It is a serious skin disease. But when the priest examines it, if there is no white hair in the spot, and it is not beneath the skin but is faded, the priest will quarantine him 7 days. The priest will re-examine him on the 7th day. If it has spread further on the skin, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is, in fact, a case of serious skin disease. But if the spot has remained where it was and has not spread on the skin but is faded, it is the swelling from the burn. The priest is to pronounce him clean, for it is only the scar from the burn. When a man or woman has a condition on the head or chin, the priest is to examine the condition. If it appears to be deeper than the skin, and the hair in it is yellow and sparse, the priest must pronounce the person unclean. It is a scaly outbreak, a serious skin disease of the head or chin. When the priest examines the scaly condition, if it does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, the priest will quarantine the person with the scaly condition for 7 days. The priest will re-examine the condition on the 7th day. If the scaly outbreak has not spread, and there is no yellow hair in it, and it does not appear to be deeper than the skin, the person is to shave himself, but not shave the scaly area. Then the priest will quarantine the person who has the scaly outbreak for another 7 days. The priest will examine the scaly outbreak on the 7th day, and if it has not spread on the skin and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, the priest is to pronounce the person clean. He is to wash his clothes, and he will be clean. But if the scaly outbreak spreads further on the skin after his cleansing, the priest is to examine the person. If the scaly outbreak has spread on the skin, the priest does not need to look for yellow hair. The person is unclean. But if, as far as he can see, the scaly outbreak remains unchanged and black hair has grown in it, then it has healed. He is clean. The priest is to pronounce the person clean. When a man or a woman has white spots on the skin of the body, the priest is to make an examination. If the spots on the skin of the body are dull white, it is only a rash that has broken out on the skin. The person is clean.
Okay, guys. Once again, we finished. I am going to literally cry if this does not save. Um, and because what happens is when I'm done, I hit finish. There's like a button on the app where I hit finish recording, and then it goes to the next page where I can like edit it if I need to, which I don't. I don't edit my videos. Um, and then I add my little ending spiel about, subscribing and following me. And then I save it and export it. And every single video I've made today and yesterday, I would hit the finish button and nothing would happen. And that was it. I couldn't go nowhere. And that was it. The recording would just, the screen would go black, and then I'd have to, nothing would happen. So when I hit finish right now, you guys, this better save and I better be uploading this because I am so done reading these chapters today. And I feel like I was like intently like paying attention too to the, all the skin stuff. Like it was the first time I read it. I don't understand. Like it's amazing how in just what, a month and a half, month, I don't know, I don't even know how long it's been now. It hasn't been long. That I'm like getting more like into it. I'm getting more, like I don't know, it's pretty crazy. I never would have thought at all that I would be where I'm at right now, reading the Bible, praying, believing in God, having faith, and looking to God for everything. Like I've been asking God for help on everything, seeking his guidance on everything, and I'm just definitely like it's pretty wild. I never thought that I would be here where I am right now. So it's pretty crazy. So, okay, guys. Ooh, fingers crossed. Please work. So hopefully this is it, and we'll start with our next chapters tomorrow. Bye, guys.